Awesome. Then I will call the board meeting of the Arc of Whatcom County to order for February 28th, 2024.
It's almost leap day.
Despite,
Yeah, leap year.
despite challenges and all that, so, all right.
And I often give a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the board meetings. For our parent trainings and support meetings and that sort of thing, I do a land and labor acknowledgement. So I put that in the packets as well, and it's up on the shared screen. Because we not only talk about where we are, but what is the work that's from current generations as well as previous generations, sometimes not, coerced, that leads to us being here and having these privileges and this wealth that we have. So our home here at the Ark and in the Dan Godwin Community Center is in the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people. And I am grateful and thankful for the Wachtommish, the Lummi Nation, and the Mixtec tribe who have continued to show us with their leadership how to care for and respect these waters and land, mountains, valleys. And because of our events being shared digitally in the way that we're all connected to, we also really consider the legacy that is embedded within all the technology that we use. The equipment, the structure, the high-speed internet that's not available everywhere. And it's not available to all communities. It is the hard work of hands that brings us closer. And I recognize the real cost to families, to fathers and mothers and even children, to help us connect through this world. So I'm grateful for that too. And because it's Black History Month, the next page has a picture of Lois Curtis, who is part of our history of the Ark and part of the history of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Lois is one of the two plaintiffs in the Olmsted decision that came before the Supreme Court in 1999. And her continued, her persistence and her expectation that I can live in community and do my art, and be a part of community and be able to have services that support me is part of the rest of the legacy that we have inherited. And as a person in a Black body and all the ways that we can see that intersection as a person with a disability, as a woman, that is part of our legacy that is shared with us as well. So really grateful for the work of so many folks we know of and folks who are unnamed.
Thank you for sharing that, because I did not know about Lois.
Yeah.
I was gonna give you a high.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to do something about Black History Month and realized that she was an artist and an advocate. Yeah, she has one of her paintings that is called The Women of Olmsted. And I think it's her and then the other gal who was in the case, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who wrote part of the
Opinion, the opinion.
Yeah, the opinion, yeah, the case, yeah. So, yeah, really, really meaningful on so many levels, yeah. So thank you for indulging me in that as well. Helps us all to know those things. Thank you.
I'm thinking of McKenna.
Yeah.
McKenna and a very cute kid.
Could I check in with you guys that are on Zoom? Because we had those challenges, are you guys able to hear what's happening?
Yes, I can hear just fine.
Great.
Okay.
Want to make sure that freezing wasn't
Yeah.
all frozen.
There's so much more, as you know.
Yeah, but that's still in her style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go around and do some introductions. I'll start. I'm Missy Bartel, president of the board. Here, yeah.
I'm Ellie Pozell, board member.
I'm Dale Whipple, board directors.
Rhonda Rishi, I'm on staff.
Jason McGill, board member.
Beverly Porter, executive director.
I'm Hillary Scheibner and I am the office manager here at the Art.
And we'll hop to that too.
I'm Sam, I'm just Sam right now.
So happy to have you.
Remember to
It's a
be.
book.
Yeah.
And then McKenna, how about you go next?
I'm McKenna and I'm an ARC volunteer.
Francie,
I'm Francie Chalmers. I'm a board member.
Susan,
Susan Jewell, board member.
and then I see that Ken and Susan just hopped on. If you guys can hear us now, you can come on in and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name is Ken Larson. I am the past president of Self-Absent Leadership. I'm with the Art Washington State Board, and I'm hopefully going to be able back on your board. 'Cause I have applied.
Right.
All right.
I'm Susan Larson and I'm with the Art and Sale and self-advocate with people first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think that was everybody. All right. So if everybody had a minute to peruse the agenda, if we have anything you need to add, take away. And then we can move forward for approval.
Yeah.
Motion's approved.
Take a motion to approve from Jason. Do I have a
I
second?
second it.
Second it from Dale. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Moving on to advocacy reports. Who wants to go first?
I would love to go first.
All right, Dale.
Everyone knows that I had an interview yesterday through KGMI about my upcoming retirement from next week, next Monday. And they're going to come in, take some photo pictures of my party at Red Robin on Monday. And I just said them know that I'm a long loyalty team member of Red Robin. I've been accomplished for over 33 years, ever since I've been working with Red Robin.
Dale, that gave me goosebumps. You're like a celebrity. We can get your autograph even on the radio.
Yeah, from
I saw
KGMI.
the picture you sent tonight, but it didn't have anything with it. So then I was like, well, did I miss something? And so I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be all over the KGMI website.
Yep, on their
Facebook,
website.
We can share that out too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. Exciting. What a great way to start your retirement.
Yeah.
Celebration and being honored and recognized. Yeah, 33 years is a long time, a lot of work.
Yeah, sure is.
How old were you when you started working? I was actually born the same month. Red Robin. March 1991.
Oh, that's great. Very, very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, when I heard about it, I started looking all over the KGMI website to see if it was out yet. Because I knew, I was like, oh, is it there yet? But now I know more. I can keep looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that you have a card here and we brought cupcakes to celebrate you upon your retirement as well. And really glad that you're not retiring from the board.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really love Red Rob for all the hard work they've done, but keeping me as one of their board of the team
Cupcakes.
members because they know the good job I do for them. So they were always there for me as needed and supported me so much that I just feel Red Rob's right here in my heart. Everywhere I go, I have Red Rob right here.
Yeah.
And you literally do with your shirt right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
We love it.
And my Red Robin hat too.
There you go.
It's perfect.
Do you get some special retirement benefit, like one free lunch a month or anything? You do?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. good for them. You need to live a long life and just revel in that, yeah.
Yeah,
A burger pension, if you.
I get a free burger for my birthday too.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Yay.
Well, you'll find all sorts of new things that then you're gonna advocate for in the future. I would expect that we'll continue to see
That was
other
making
things.
that.
Yeah.
I'll keep my eye out for that.
Okay, so what's new with the ARC, this agenda this evening?
Well, I think we're gonna check in with Ken and Susan if they have any advocacy reports.
Looks like you're muted, Ken.
Ken?
Ken and Susan, do you have anything that you want to add for the advocacy report?
Okay.
You might be
You-
muted.
now you go ahead.
There we go.
So,
The summit is gonna be in May, May the 7th, and this year.
Is that the community summit, Susan?
Yes.
yeah, it's gonna be about a month early this year, 7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, and
Okay.
9, yeah.
So that's
And
when
hopefully-
supported living providers and residential providers and employment providers and advocates all get together in Wenatchee?
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
Okay. Great.
Anyway, going to my part of it, SAIL has a new policy coordinator. His name is Sean Latham. Sean Latham is actually with the Allies. He's also the executive of the Allies for advocacy. And he is actually been in Olympia a lot now, pushing bills through to try to get them ready for the cutoff date. Hopefully we'll be able to go in right now. We have 11 proposals we need to vote on. We had 11 to start, and we've only got 2 or 3 now down the federal. So that just shows you that the money just ain't there. As much as it is there, it ain't, not for people with disabilities. Anyway, accessibility, we've got the marriage penalty, moving income caps, improved healthcare and vision, excuse me, income increases, military benefits, Better Care Act. This covers all these covers increase provider wages, provider provision for emergency pay, improved eligibility for food stamps, and nothing about us without us, which right now, I understand, since I was on the computer, is actually on the Senate floor, goody. Now the question is, can we make it till Friday? Because if there's a couple more readings of it, the cutoff date is this Friday, so that's only a couple of days. So a lot of people with disabilities are in Olympia really riding the rail right now, because we need to pass that on before this Friday. So I've been emailing all the legislators so we can get that passed. So as Sue said, the community summit is the 17th and 9th. The next meeting has already been done. We haven't heard about anything right now. Open Doors. Moses and Adrian came to talk to SAIL about Open Doors. Open Doors is hoping to pair with SAIL and other self-advocacy groups for this short legislative session. Open Doors has been working on a project for the last 2 years for multicultural families called Multicultural Vision, Village, excuse me. This project is for housing. They are shooting for 200 units, and they want to include 20% of the housing with people with disabilities and their families that are in the diversity form. Other bills that both deal with open doors overlap, excuse me, on the caregiver bills, a respite bill, day habitation, which covers transportation and core outside. As for the RHCs, we're still working on them. We'll never quit working on that. Thanks for allowing me to do that. If there's any questions, I'll take them. And lastly, I'll say, I'm sorry we were late. We had a little ruckus over here at the apartment. It was getting kind of rowdy. So that's why we were a little late, and sorry about that. Thank you.
Well, I'm really glad you could be here, Susan and Ken. I appreciate hearing about it. Is it okay if I just share a little bit more about Open Doors for Multicultural Families and
Oh, no, go
regarding
ahead.
the Nothing
Go
About
ahead.
Us Without Us? Okay, so
Go
Open
right
Doors
ahead.
to Multicultural Families is an agency in King County, and they have multiple language resources for folks. And so it's kind of like an ARC parent to parent sort of agency, but it's its own 501c3, but they've been expanding in recent years, and they want to get involved with SAIL because they have advocates in their teens and then adulthood who want to be able to make a difference policy wise. So they're working on some legislative advocacy and partnering with SAIL on that. And then what was the other thing I said I'd share about? Oh, Nothing About Us Without Us. So this is a very specific bill that's come through self-advocates in leadership, and then the allies that Ken talked about with Sean Latham. And this is a bill that's basically requiring the involvement and participation of people across the spectrum, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, in the work of public works around legislation that comes forward around the processes and advisory committees and involvement. So there's a lot of encouragement and push on it. And I'm really excited to hear that it's still on the floor and hasn't been passed out and hasn't died yet. It's hope. It's hope. People want to be recognized and included and involved. And this, in this way, will help require that so it can happen. So thanks, Ken. Appreciate you telling us more about that. And it's still on the floor, which is great.
A lot of things have died right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still no McKenna? All right. Moving on then to old business. We have the board portal. Is that a Rhonda update?
Well,
It's a shared.
yeah, I do have some stuff I can walk through with the board. It would be easier, honestly, if I was online, because I could walk through it that way and send that out. But I think that you've explored a web-based option.
Right.
That is
Right.
maybe a better fit.
Yeah, and so some people have been able to access the Teams process, and it doesn't work for everybody, you know, that you'd given some information before, which is exactly what Rhonda had done. And so it doesn't work for everybody with their technology and equipment. So the other thing we've been doing is the web designer who's worked with us and who hosts our website is looking to add a widget and have a board portal in that way, so that you could go to the ARC website, click on that thing, enter a password, and access things in that way. And so, you know, one way or another, there's some cost and some work to it, and trying to find multiple options to make this so that is accessible as it can be for everyone. And we'll still have to print things and mail stuff and that sort of thing, because it's not gonna work for everybody. I think there's a lot on your phone that trying to look at 13 pages, you know, or even just the financials is a little tricky. So trying to come up with multimodal ways that folks can access that. So yeah, we do have stuff through Teams, and are building this portal on the website. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I guess the other thing about that is Rhonda is standing by as tech support. So can show us through things on and all of this, but if somebody specifically wants to work with Rhonda to do that, we wanna make that work for anybody, so. So call Rhonda. Yeah.
All right. Board retreat?
Yeah.
Yes, Saturday, the 23rd. 9 to 12 here
Here,
at the
yeah,
Arc,
yes.
and we have
Brian
Brian
Flowers.
Flowers is gonna help facilitate,
Yeah.
and so, woo!
Well, I'm
Ready to
really
go.
excited. I'm really excited. I think Brian is enthusiastic and he'll be very inclusive and engaging people, and coming from lots of other board membership that he's been on, as well as facilitating and the storytelling that he's does. I'm glad to have him. Yeah. And he is somebody who had special healthcare needs as a kid. He and I've talked about some of the surgeries he had when he was really young, and knowing that, you know, that his care was probably really unique as a preemie, and with some of the concerns he had. So he also brings that lived experience as well to the work that we're involved in. So yeah,
Excellent.
March 23rd.
Yay,
Mhm.
all right. Executive Director report.
Okay, so, we have, over time, you've heard me talk about repairs and maintenance and broken windows and that sort of thing. So we have, we've gone through a couple different, connections, contracts with different people to be able to continue to do repairs and work for us. And have landed on somebody who's just absolutely phenomenal, or what he's amazing, super.
Super,
Super Jason, Super Jason, yeah. So he had done some work, earlier with a colleague, putting up this new monitor that we have here, as well as completing the rest of the covering the windows at the Alderwood building, so that those are all secure. And did some other work there. And then we got a phone call, well, I think about a week and a half ago. Somebody had dumped garbage in front of Alderwood building, and so called Jason, and he went and picked it up and hauled it away. So we have somebody that's much easier to connect with and ask for support and help, and yeah, he's good, you know, sends us an invoice, but is responsive and helpful in those ways without us trying to go between all sorts of people. So that feels really, really hopeful. I appreciate that. Yeah, when the garbage thing came up, I was like, do I need a truck? You know, what do I need to do? So. And the other facility things, there has been deferred maintenance here on some things here at the Arc. And one of the things that we do know is the handrail out here, the wood is aged and hasn't been resealed, and probably needs to be replaced on the handrail. So looking at being able to complete some of those kind of things this year.
And Jason will be.
Jason, yeah, so we'll, yeah, get some info from him and have him bid on that, so, yeah. Then the other thing, I did include our numbers here on that usual report that we do to Whatcom County. And I can just give you kind of an update about the two strong funding things that we have program-wise. Our county contract that supports parent-to-parent and parent coalition, and our self-advocacy are steady contracts, and in fact, the amount we're gonna get paid and reimbursed for this year has increased. So that contract, starting July 1st, is up actually to $172,000 a year, which is nice and helps cover time of staff, is how that is reimbursed. We are still a United Way agency. I have a meeting next week with other partners there, and so anticipate that we'll continue to be a part of that and receive funds through United Way as well. So, those feel very solid in terms of the support that we have as an agency. We have a couple things, the parent-to-parent support meetings have grown along with Hispanic. The Spanish speaking group did their first Zoom meeting, Zoom support group, which was a huge first for families getting on and navigating the technology and doing all that. So they had a really positive experience with that. The Easter egg hunt is coming up. And I actually didn't ask Alina and Marta if they need some volunteers about that or help with things. Yeah, so that is a fun event to get ready for. And those families really look forward to that. So that's coming up. We're also involved with Whatcom County in coordinating some things like the transition fair, which is happening later in March. And that's for students who are moving from high school years and community transition programs into the adult service system, which is fragmented and confusing. And so the ARC will have a table again. Self-advocates are going to be there and help to talk about the self-advocacy group. And I've been making emails and things with the county coordinators as well to make sure the schools are going to be there and bringing students. So that's great. And then we're planning in the spring, we've often done kind of a transition series for our parent coalition workshops. So the one in March is on future planning and looking at representative payee, power of attorney, guardianship. How do families and individuals look at how to preserve their rights and ensure their choice in life? So that's our next big workshop. Can you think of other things? I mean, we're looking towards having a spring fling for Down syndrome outreach.
Yeah, that is, ooh, I should have it in front of me.
It's okay, because it's in the DSO.
Perfect,
Yes.
you're right, it is.
So one of the advisory committees,
You're
their
right.
Down syndrome outreach advisory committee, and so those minutes from their recent meeting are in your packet.
You are right. Oh, yeah, so April 28th, I think is what it is, yep. Confirmed date of Sunday, April 28th from 1 to 4, at the Berryman Park Pavilion, and then we have a save the date also for Buddy Fest, but that's much further down the road. And then we have our next meeting coming up on March 19th at Asian One, actually, that's incorrect in the notes. Asian Market is the store. Not the Asian One. So anyway, that's in the Cordata area. Anyone's welcome, but should be a good group, and we're making progress on planning. Yeah, as far as other things coming up, general art things. You got it.
We got it, yeah. So that concludes my report, unless people think of other things.
I was adding that into my calendar, so cool. That's our agenda, okay. President's report, I think this is on there from last month, committee and member makeup. I think that the biggest thing I would talk about was that board retreat, and that's already been talked about, so. I'm moving on.
The only addition I have about that is I know our executive committee will meet, but it would be great for you and I to meet with Brian and help
Yes.
plan out.
Yeah.
Some stuff too, so.
Right, great, yeah. So then moving to our meeting minutes. Was looking at our board meeting minutes from January 24. Anybody notice any corrections, anything that had to be? All right. If nobody has any corrections to make. I have a motion to accept the January 24th board meeting minutes as presented.
All right.
All right, Dale makes a motion, second. Ellie seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, passes unanimously.
Mhm.
And the next one in there is the executive committee meeting minutes from the 14th. And so, if you want to take a quick minute to read that, and then those of us present, if there's anything we need to change.
I would just offer to make a quick comment on, I had given information at the executive committee meeting because I'd heard both from Sarah Godwin and from Melissa Mitchell that they would not be continuing on their terms as board members. And so I wanted to directly say that in case folks might have skimmed over that or not seen it. So much going on for Melissa being in Olympia, and Sarah has taken such leadership and a strong role in care and advocacy around foster care and her other work. So I'm really appreciative of both of their commitments to this work. And obviously the nominating committee and this board can keep looking towards our membership meeting and nominations.
Oh, hey, Hillary, after the meeting, I'd like to get some business cards for my staff. Because I was talking to Madison about the ARC, and she said she would like to come to an ARC meeting sometime.
Awesome. Well, I know we have business cards specifically for board members, so I'll give you some.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it'll be
Thank you.
good for other staff like Abby, my
Absolutely.
program manager, so she can get to know about the ARC too.
Awesome. Good thinking.
At this meeting, we had a lot of great discussion and we fleshed out some questions. Jason brought up some incredible insight. Susan shared an incredible amount of information. And what I'm thinking is maybe after the board retreat, so maybe kind of some of this we can either, maybe not necessarily be addressed, but that at our next meeting, we can start talking about more of this and addressing things and getting it prepared for the membership meeting. So anything that might need to be revised or updated or approved can happen all at that time. And so,
Great.
all right. So then if I can have a motion to approve the executive committee meeting minutes from February 2024. Dale makes a motion, seconded. Jason seconds, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Approved unanimously. And then we have, are we doing committee meetings or vote later?
I think our treasurer is next.
Treasurer's next, all right. Treasurer's report.
Okay. So you have in front of you the profit and loss for January, and I want to especially thank Beverly and Hillary for their hard work on this document. And I also want to let the rest of the board know I appreciate your understanding that this is probably the last piece of the board packet that you get each month. And it almost feels like it's down to the wire each month, making sure we get this to you even a minute before the board meeting starts. And just to kind of update you a little bit about how that works, Hillary's in charge of closing out the books each month, and she has to do that on a timeline that the banking community decides upon. In other words, usually we don't even have the information to start closing out the books until the 10th of the month. And so in the 18 days now between the 10th of the month, we've probably reviewed 4 different drafts of the profit and loss, had more than one conversation with the CPA, and we've come up with ways that we're trying to make the information more reflective of the work that's being done and our understanding of that work. So the biggest change on this month's profit and loss, and this document is about how much money came into the ARC in the month of January, and then how much money was spent in the month of January. So the first section, Beverly's already talked with you about the standard, so to speak, grants and contracts that the ARC has to perform their mission from the county, from the state ARC, from Island County, from United Way. And so that's reflected in the total income. And then the amount of money that the agency spends to perform our mission in addition to the new line item, which is 7000, a million zeros. It's too small for me to count, but it's called unoccupied facility expenses. As part of our year-end preparation with Larson and Gross, one of the discussions that we had for the 2023 year-end numbers was we want to make sure that as Programs and Services Committee starts to work on the 2024 budget, that we distinguish between what is occupancy expenses for the Dan Godwin Community Center, which hosts all the programs and services, versus what is spent for unoccupied facilities, specifically the Alderwood and at some points, even the Redwood building. So you'll see this is the first time that this on this statement that there's some dollars associated with unoccupied facility expenses, which Beverly had explained to you earlier in the meeting, was about finally getting all the windows secured at the Alderwood building, some other deferred maintenance over there, and then additionally property taxes and things like that. And the reason this is important is because the next line item, occupancy expenses, is a dollar value that we share across all the programs and services that are housed within the community center itself. So that's a new thing on here, and I always like to call people's attention to new things. And then when you get to the bottom line, you'll see the dreaded minus figure, which none of us ever like to see, but it is there because we did address $3,000 worth of deferred maintenance on Alderwood. And so that's not reflective of mission-based loss. That's more about facility-based loss. So can I answer any questions for anyone about that information that I've just shared?
I just want to say that I noticed that when I was reviewing these and I really appreciated it. It made me feel smarter.
Well, thank you, Ellie, because it is an important distinction for us all to have. A lot of times we really, we hear about Alderwood, and last year we talked about going over there to look at Alderwood and Redwood, but we know that Redwood is an income generating facility, and so that's awesome. That's what we see up in 51100, facility use earned revenues. And it's an important piece of us delivering our mission and vision because it's unrestricted funding that's added into the grants and contracts. But there is a cost associated with keeping those facilities income producing to the best extent possible. So any other questions about this month's report? Okay, we can move on to the balance sheet then. This document, this talks about, for assets, what we own, whether it's money in the bank or equipment or buildings. That's the asset portion. And then beneath that is liabilities and equity. And liabilities are what we owe on what we own. And the equity, of course, is how much we have accumulated in investment in the properties through the years. One of the things that was the first thing that Hillary and Beverly and I worked on after the books were closed for January was the accounts receivable. And that number is again just a bit higher than what we would normally expect to see because we have usually only 1 or 2 months outstanding in some of our grant contracts. But the old server meltdown from late October is still rearing its ugly head because we were late getting some of the billings out for our funders. And so their corresponding payments back in have also been delayed. So that represents about 3 months of some of those contracts that are still to be processed and collected. And then
Can I add
Yes.
one thing to that, Susan, too? And I was talking with a colleague at another agency yesterday that I'd heard about. The Whatcom County has some new folks in finance and legal. And so the process for reimbursements and payments out to agencies who are contracted has been slower across the board. And we may continue to see that. The person at this other agency is actually out for 6 months worth of contract reimbursements. And
Wow.
it's not problems or other ways, but it is inspection and oversight and some other things that are happening within Whatcom County and a change in some of the folks in finance. So I don't see problems with it other than there will probably continue to be some delays with reimbursements.
Well, that's really great information to have. Then we can just put the
Yeah.
old ghost of the server meltdown to rest and lay it all at the feet of the county. It's all their fault. So I'm happy to do that. They're a good partner though. So
Yeah.
we know
And
that,
and I don't want it to be a concern about cash flow. I don't have doubts that we will be reimbursed, but I think we may continue to see some delays and so that number, we need to keep an eye on it. Yeah, with that knowledge.
absolutely. And that's something that Hillary is wonderful about meeting with me on when she's closing out the books each month. We take a good hard look at what is in accounts receivable and why it is the number that it is and how old some of those things are. And to the county's credit, and Beverly, I think you mentioned this in December or January, this is, I think, the 26th or 27th year that the ARC has partnered with the Whatcom County Developmental Disabilities Program for delivery of parent-to-parent and parent coalition services. And so we have every confidence in their ability to meet their obligation under that contract that we have. We have also added in this document another line item under current liabilities that represents the accumulating property taxes. We haven't seen this in here before because last year we ended up prepaying a lot of property tax because we had gotten behind in 2022. So then 2023 got paid all at once. So we weren't seeing it as a monthly figure. But after Hillary did a good consultation with Larson and Gross, we've determined that the most appropriate place for us to always be tracking property taxes on the Dan Godwin Community Center and the Alderwood building are through this current liabilities entry on your balance sheet. So that doesn't mean that we have bills we're not paying. It just means we're always going to be seeing numbers there. So does anybody have any questions about any of the entries on this balance sheet?
I just want to say I'm so excited to see a credit card over $500.
I actually wanted to make a comment on that. Our balance isn't that high. Our just billing cycle ends on the 10th, as Susan was saying earlier. So once this document is generated, is mid-cycle. So it looks like we have a big balance on there every month.
Well, that's one thing. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, it's another question, sorry.
Sure, go. Let's hear
Oh,
it.
you used your limit tonight.
I know. I remember, if I remember correctly, it was discussed, I can't remember where, but about the savings account, and then there's another heritage savings, and there was a discussion around that. Just if you can refresh my memory about that.
Absolutely.
Like whether we were shifting money or something.
Right. In the January executive committee meeting, based on discussions again that we've been having with Larson and Gross and Beverly and Hillary, but it's the royal we that I'm talking about here, we also looked at what it would mean to take to the Programs and Services Committee the concept of transferring money from the savings, which you can see has a balance of $651,842, and putting some of that money into an agency reserve, which you can see right now has a balance of $279, and then also creating some accounts called maintenance reserve or something similar that would be money that would be put aside so that when items are needed for any of the three buildings, such as the heating system at Redwood, which we know is imminent, other things at Alderwood, which will always be imminent, and then, of course, the deferred maintenance on the Dan Godwin Community Center. So in the executive committee, what the decision that was made was not that this should all go to programs and services as part of the budget preparation process. So no transfers of any kind have been made, no actions have been taken along those lines. Where you see these bottom two items there that say Michelle Hill Endowment and Heritage Savings, those are both related to the endowment, and those aren't ever, nothing happens to them other than money added to it without board approval. But even those, anything that would be transferred in there, that would require board approval. And so the Programs and Services Committee report, I think, is coming up in the next section under committee reports. But we haven't quite gotten to that piece yet in budget prep to talk yet about maintenance reserves and operating reserves. But I'm sure we'll get to it and we'll have lots of good information for the board at the next meeting. But that was a great question, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm like looking at the owl.
Can I answer any other questions for folks?
All right, if no questions, can I take a motion from someone to accept the financial statements as presented?
I so move.
Ellie makes a motion, seconded
second
by
it.
Dale, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained, passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Now, moving on to committee reports. We have, if we go by the order in our packet, we're at the bylaws. Oh, the same order as on the thing too. Look at that.
Yeah.
You're so good. I would have got them out of order.
And I'll just add clerically and for committees, I really appreciate getting information from committees and Hillary works super hard to make sure we've got this information. I love that we can get you these minutes and that information so everyone can see, like with the bylaws, there's a lot going on and you don't have to read all of them yet. But to know that the committee has gotten to this point or the next point. So thanks everybody for sharing that info. So that's kind of that piece for me that I love, the transparency and the openness of the information as well. Yeah.
And so reading through, we have 3 months worth of the bylaw committees. 3 meetings worth, not months worth, 3 weeks worth of meetings.
Yeah.
Shoo. And so, does anybody have any questions for the bylaw committee about those? And does the bylaw committee want to make a statement for us? Or just read it?
I can just say, I guess on behalf of the committee, we are really excited to be near the end. We have gotten all the way to the end of the bylaws and we are now starting back at the beginning and we are in making sure that everywhere it says shall, it will say must, and checking the commas and Oxford commas and the numbering system. And so we are really close. And that's exciting because it's been a long haul, right, Ken and Susan? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Ken and Susan have done an amazing job of participating every week in these 90-minute meetings on topics that are sometimes a lot of attention to detail. For instance, today in the meeting, we talked about making sure that the membership descriptions in the bylaws is consistent with what is published on our website. And that the meanings are clear and easy to understand, and the meaning of the type of membership is clear and easy to understand. Because the difference between a professional membership and a community partner membership is an important distinction. And so it may seem pretty tedious to some, but our hope is that you will have a document in your hands in not too long to be able to review. And then we could send it back to the attorney and then on to the membership for the annual meeting. So we're getting close.
All right.
All right. Do we need to approve those minutes as presented or are they more informational?
I think they're really informational and any committee who can bring information to the board But if the committee has a recommendation that the board needs to vote on, then that would be action that for the board to take. And my understanding, because we're not having the bylaws yet, is there's no action.
No action then.
It's informational.
All right. Board Affairs Committee. We were bad. We didn't send minutes in. But we did meet with Beverly back in the beginning of February and did her review.
And I sent the minutes on that to you too, Beverly and Missy, and asked for your feedback on them, and as soon as I get that, I will send it out to the rest of you.
There we go. Maybe I was having problems with my Google, my
I can
Gmail.
resend
So,
it.
would you?
I'll be glad to.
Because I went through all my emails while I was on the plane
Yeah.
and trying
Well,
to,
it's all encouraging, good stuff. I just want to share with the rest of the board, all the things that, all the goals that Beverly set for herself last year that she met, and that the ARC met, and the new goals for the coming year. So we're excited to share those, and we'll get that to you soon.
And actually, we're almost meeting one of them already on March 23rd.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, movement, yeah.
all right. Nominating committee. No,
Margaret's
you
not here,
guys.
and I'm not sure what she wanted to talk about, if anything.
I can, if you'd like, bring up the email that I have for Margaret,
Okay,
if that would be helpful
Yeah,
for
sure,
folks to see, okay, or to know. I'm sure that I can just actually, without even bringing it up, I can just say, my understanding is that Margaret and Ellie and Jason and anyone else who's on the committee
same
has,
as new member.
have completed doing the reference checks regarding Mr. Ken Larson, and were planning to put Ken on the slate for election at our May membership meeting.
Right.
Along with Tim.
Yep,
So that's my capture of that. Yeah.
sounds good.
And didn't we talk, so the DEI training, we were thinking about trying to maybe do it during a board meeting or?
Yeah, Margaret sent out, an email asking people to think about whether we could have an extended board meeting some evening, since finding, a good time for Janice Farmer, who has so kindly offered to do this as part of her job, so at no cost to the ARC. Saturdays just don't work for her.
Right.
And we know that board members can come to a board meeting, and so if we could plan ahead enough to have a longer board meeting to do that work with Dr. Farmer, that would be great. So maybe that means a doodle poll needs to go out for evening meetings that would work for Dr. Farmer and the board.
Okay, yeah, probably need to get the
Yeah.
dates from Dr. Farmer first. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And that also could look like we start a little bit early, instead of ending super late. You know, we can put that in there as well. I don't know if that works for folks, but.
Yeah.
With enough notice.
Yeah.
Probably could. I would just have to cancel some clients or reshift them.
Yeah.
So. But I need like 3 or 4 weeks notice to do it.
Yeah. Right.
And then I think the other 2 things under that nominating committee were things that we come up with at that executive.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember.
And so, and it was that sergeant at arms and then the question about the length of time, the continuity, the repetitive terms versus the cumulative terms and what that was about, wasn't that what that was about?
The question was, if the bylaws had said that there's a limit of 3 2-year terms, consecutive terms, how did that impact someone who had already fulfilled that coming back on the board at a later date? So I think that was the question there. And Missy, I think you were the one who actually answered it and said, yeah, I did my 6 or 7 years already, and here I am back again. And so there is nothing in the bylaws that says that cannot be the case. It only cautions us against more than 6 years consecutively.
Yeah.
And that other piece was thinking about, like, Susan Larson had been given for exemplary service had a 1-year extension. And so Susan continued as our president for 1 more year. And because we do have bylaws about not having directors from the same household, Ken and Susan have not served at the same time. So Ken could come on now based on that information as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the sergeant at arms and support, to me, was one of those bullet points that I thought would come up through the retreat and then in that meeting after, and then how we want to walk our walk and talk our talk.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
For example, tonight, Rhonda is here to support self-advocates and making sure that Dale's got materials and all of us have an opportunity to look out for one another and make sure everyone has a chance to speak up and when they want, but that extra focus in support of board members participating is really helpful.
alrighty, programs and services committee. We met yesterday.
Yeah, so we actually don't have minutes for this one yet.
And we started
Because
going,
it was yesterday,
yeah, and we did start going through and planning the budget. We're meeting again Monday to sometime next week, I think. And then Monday, the 4th. No. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's the day of my retirement party.
Is it really?
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah. All right, and then on to Down syndrome outreach.
Yeah. Already touched on some of those, the confirmed date for the spring fling, April 28th from 1 to 4. And Buddy Fest, September 28th. Looking at launching a logo t-shirt contest, and we will launch that at the spring fling. Wanting people's input on some possible design ideas for Down syndrome outreach. And then also we talked through how can we make this event, all of our events, but this event in particular, more intergenerational, so it's not focused on families with young kids necessarily, but also making sure that we are including our young adults and adults with Down syndrome and making sure that that is a welcoming space for everyone and something that is interesting to everyone. So have some ideas on how to do that and looking to follow through on those. Hoping to have then a new t-shirt for Buddy Fest. And yeah, any questions about Down syndrome outreach?
I have one thing, if I could comment. First, I want to say thank you so much for these minutes. They're incredibly helpful. It's great information to have. One thing that would also help me with this information is, you know how at the top a lot of our minutes, we say who was present and kind of if they're a staff or a volunteer or a board member. And so since we're trying to follow our new Washington laws, you know, Missy has taken on the role of being the board member present as on this advisory committee. And I'm looking and seeing there's folks' names on here, and I'd be like, okay, it'd be great to know who those folks are that are volunteering their time. So if we run into them in the community, we can say, gosh, you're doing great work, and we see it and we appreciate it. So that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll do that.
The other question that I had was, it discusses in here sponsorships for the Buddy Fest. I would think it would be really nice for the board to have a list of what that sponsorship would look like. I don't know if you call them bronze, gold, silver, you know, how you're labeling it or what you're doing or how much they are. But if we could get that information, so we could start now as a board to maybe help with some fundraising or talk to our connections and say, we've got this great event and we would love to know if you'd be interested in being a bronze sponsor or whatever, however you're labeling them, type of a sponsor to have, or a t-shirt sponsor, or, you know, just so that we know what is needed, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's perfect. I love that.
I do too.
I've sent that out to the committee, so that will be super easy to send on to you guys. I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm all about fundraisers.
I love it. That's great. I'll get you all the information. Yeah, no, those are both great ideas. Thanks.
All right,
Then the committee reports.
and the committee reports. Hillary has an echo. We have anything, we had no new additions, nothing added to the agenda. Any announcements for the good of the order? Hey, I heard about this great retirement party happening March 4th at Red Robin.
What time?
Yeah.
What time?
11 o'clock.
11.
Love it.
Maybe we'll have to have our budget committee.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting at Red Robin.
Bob and Miss Friday.
Yeah, I got that Bob's price there, garlic price.
Perfect.
All right, well, if there are no other announcements, thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
And I have a motion to adjourn our meeting. Oh, Dale makes motion, seconded. Jason seconds, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Meeting is adjourned at 7:11
Ooh,
PM.
because I need to go to 7-Eleven.
There we go.
7-Eleven.
Gotta eat a cupcake first.
Yes, I've been like looking at those.
You can get them started. And they're recording here.
Oh.
You don't wanna record the.
Yeah.